Well, as we speak, MPs are preparing to vote on welfare reforms. In the last hour, the UK government announced more concessions to try to prevent a major rebellion from its own backbench MPs. They say they'll now delay any major changes to personal independence payments until a review has been completed. We've spoken to a disability charity who've told us it's unclear what changes will mean here because welfare is devolved and there's an adult disability payment rather than PIP. We'll hear from them shortly, but first, here's what some of the politicians have been saying today.
This is the question of, do disabled people deserve help or not? We've seen by the impact assessments that the government has provided that 150,000 disabled and vulnerable people would be plunged into poverty if these horrendous reforms were passed. That's a very, very simple choice for me to make.
Those who can work should work. Those who want support into work, perhaps they might have a mental health issue or physical health issue, or they might need training or employability support, should get that support to help them into work. But those who clearly cannot work should get the support they need to live a dignified life. And so that's why I'm supporting the bill, because I think those principles are Labour principles. It's about getting people back into work.
And we need to take action to, reduce that bill for the sake of the taxpayer, because it's simply unfair that people who could work are being paid not to work. We need to sort that system out, but this bill will not do that.
And it's a very sorry position that a Labour government has found itself in, where they're advocating reducing social security and plunging 150,000 additional people into poverty. That's not where they should be.
Well, our political correspondent, Kirsten Campbell, is live at Westminster Forest this evening. Kirsten, good evening to you. A Labour government then under pressure from its own MPs.
Hello there. Well, that's right. Sir Keir Starmer is facing the biggest rebellion of his premiership tonight as MPs vote on the proposed welfare changes. And you think that's quite extraordinary. A year ago this week, he was winning a landslide election, and tonight he's struggling to win a parliamentary vote. The House of Commons is just being cleared as MPs go to vote on the First Amendment. That's an amendment that would kill this bill. And ministers have offered a number of concessions to stop that happening, including one very late this afternoon. Much of the debate this afternoon has been focused on the fact that these eligibility changes were going to come in before a review into the assessment of personal independent payments had reported. That will not now happen. The review will inform the decisions that are taken. That delays the implementation of that and adds to the cost of it. But just remember that the equivalent benefit, the adult disability payment in Scotland, will not change because the Scottish Government is planning no changes to that, despite the fact that it is also facing financial challenges.
And just quickly, Kirsten, how are Scottish MPs expected to vote?
Well, there were more than a dozen Labour rebels originally. Now, some of those concessions will have encouraged those MPs to back the government. The Glasgow North East MP Maureen Burke and the Alloa and Grangemouth MP Brian Leishman signed the amendment they're voting on just now to scrap that bill. There will be others who expressed concerns privately, but we should know in more detail in the next hour how many of them have backed the government. But the whips here have been working hard, calling for unity, which is, of course, something you only have to do if your party is not united.
Kirsten, we'll hopefully have more from you before the end of the programme. For now, though, thank you. Well, today's bill in Parliament is looking at changes to personal independence payments, as Kirsten's just explained, otherwise known as PIP. This is a system used in England and Wales to give extra money to those with a disability. In Scotland, we use an adult disability payment system instead of PIP. But it's feared cuts to the benefits budget at Westminster would mean a reduced share coming to Scotland. I spoke to Zara Todd earlier from Disability Equality Scotland about her concerns.
One of the things that we're worried about at Disability Equality Scotland is actually the lack of the mention of Scotland in the paper. So while we're worried about the bill and advising our members to write to their MPs and engage in this process to ask them not to make cuts or vote for cuts, our bigger concern is if this does come into fruition, actually Scotland hasn't been thought about in what's being proposed. One of the concerns we have in regards to that is actually how the interaction between Scottish adult disability payment and personal independent payment will work, because at the moment they are based on a similar set of kind of systems and criterias, and actually if the criteria changes radically in England, does that mean that we have to review our relatively new system in Scotland?
The UK government are saying that the number of people on disability benefits is set to double this decade, and also that the number of PIP claimants in England and Wales is rising at twice the rate of the prevalence of people with a disability. Can you accept that the welfare bill needs to be addressed, the size of the welfare bill?
So the current system isn't working for anyone, government or disabled people. However, tackling the inequalities that disabled people face and the issues that disabled people face in living good lives in society needs to start with looking at what are the barriers to disabled people being able to have equal lives alongside our non-disabled peers, rather than removing what is a vital support in a environment that is not accessible and inclusive to us as disabled people.
And this bill, the government say, will help people who can work to do so, and protect those who can't. What kind of reform would you like to see then?
One of the things that disabled people really want to be doing is they want to be in work. At the moment, we are seeing lots and lots of cuts to the support systems that exist to get disabled people into work. But that is not what's being looked at in this reform.
OK, Zara, we're really grateful for your time today on the News at 7. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.